What's up? What's up? What's up? Anyway, it's your boy Diamo Damuto. We're back with another video. Today we're watching JxmyHighroller. Anyway, today we're watching he hit a buzzer beater and saved thousands of lives. All right, JxmyHighroller. Who hit a buzzer beater and hit thousands? Who saved thousands of lives? All right, and so make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into it.
A game-saving play. There's nothing else like it in basketball. A block.
Throws it up for Ayton. Shot blocked by Antetokounmpo.
A steal.
The Bears steals the ball.
A game-saving shot.
Is this the dagger?
That shot was so crazy.
But have you ever seen a life-saving play?
Beautiful.
This is McCall Riley, senior forward for the University of Alabama in the late 2000s, and he's playing in the SEC tournament. It's the biggest game of his life up to this point. Game on the line, down 3, with 2 seconds left on the clock. And he's about to hit a shot that not only nearly saved this game for his team, but quite possibly saved the lives of thousands of people.
Riley for 3.
That's fire.
Some rumbling behind us. The building is rocking a bit. Situations like this, domed stadium is the best possible place that you could be.
I hope you're right.
Today's video is sponsored by DraftKings. Football season is here, and
Let's be nice. Honestly.
It's March 14th, 2008. It's day 2 of the SEC basketball tournament, and Mississippi State is up on Alabama by 3 points, 59-56. There's 2 seconds left on the clock. Alabama's got to make something happen. With their season 3 points away from being over, Alabama draws up a play for this guy right here, our friend McCall Riley. Now, McCall was a great player, second leading scorer on this Alabama squad, but on this particular night, he was hot and cold the entire game. He got off to a slow start, but piled up 13 points in the final 12 minutes of the first half, followed up by a handful of misses and 0 points in the entire second half.
Damn.
At least up to this point. This was McCall's last chance at this. He was a senior. His team was on the brink of elimination. His number was being called, and he answered.
Riley for 3.
With their season on the line, McCall Riley rattles in a 3-point buzzer beater to send the game into overtime. The fans explode. Mississippi State is stunned. This game's going into overtime. But right as overtime tipped off, fans at home noticed that their TVs were becoming distorted. The broadcast signal of the game degrading and getting worse. In that moment, they had no idea what was going on. But while something special was unfolding on the court, devastation was about to unfold just outside of it. As overtime gets underway, there's an emergency report that a massive storm was building up just west of the Georgia Dome where the game was being played. Within a few minutes, the storm had developed into an EF2 tornado with winds of up to 130 miles per hour. At first, fans and players within the arena were unaware of what was going on outside. But very quickly, the situation became apparent to everyone.
Mississippi State basket.
G is fouled by Stewart. That's a block. And we're hearing some rumbling behind us. There's some concern. The building is rocking a bit.
The storm becoming so strong that it shook the arena and ripped through panels on the roof. Fans in attendance that night said it sounded like a freight train was ripping through the roof of the arena. Ben Hansborough, Mississippi State guard and brother of former Tar Heel and NBA player Tyler Hansborough, said he thought he was hearing a tornado or a terrorist attack. Which is quite an odd combination of guesses, but the man didn't know what was going on, cut him some slack. Officials had to stop the game as the tornado ripped past the arena and the surrounding downtown area. Fans quickly began to head for the doors, but the arena staff told them they needed to stay inside, because outside, it was far too dangerous to even try to get out of the building. And within a few minutes, the tornado had passed through, causing more damage than the staff and engineers on site had initially thought. It wasn't until later that weather services were able to track the path of the tornado and its destruction, where they came to the bleak realization that this tornado came within just 100 yards of the arena, wiping out everything in its path downtown and causing $500 million in damage. The worst realization came a couple days after, when a body was found amongst the debris of the tornado, proving that this was a fatal event. But it could have been far more catastrophic. If McCall Riley did not hit his game-tying shot to send the game into overtime, nearly 20,000 fans would have exited the arena directly into the path, and at the exact moment the tornado hit, thousands of people would have been in danger. The downtown area that was wrecked by the tornado would have been filled with people. What could have unfolded in the following moments would have been devastating. But thanks to a buzzer beater, these fans stayed in their seats, safe and away from the storm. The game went into overtime, and the streets were essentially empty. An unbelievable sequence of events that undoubtedly saved the lives of countless fans in attendance that night. About an hour after the tornado had passed, the game resumed, and finding themselves in an eerily similar situation as they were at the end of regulation, Alabama went back to McCall for one last shot. This time, to win it all. And this time, he missed it. The kid was devastated, so close to leading his team to a playoff win and coming up short. McCall may not have hit the game-winning shot he was hoping for, but what he did do was something far greater, because he hit possibly the first and only life-saving shot. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the butterfly effect. When one seemingly insignificant occurrence has rippling effects, leading to some consequential event sometimes long after the initial event. And this is just one of many butterfly effects within the world of basketball that you have to see to believe.
You gotta make a statue outside of...
Nearly 5,000 miles away from the US, Serbia has grown to become a hotspot for basketball talent. Despite their love for soccer and relatively small population, their influence over the basketball world has been a remarkable feat over the last few decades. And among the countless young Serbian hopefuls looking to make a name for themselves in hoops, it would eventually be Darko Milicic, a player who didn't leave much of an impact on the court, who would inadvertently alter the story of basketball forever. Not by himself, but through a young kid who had no plans of even playing the sport. Back in 2006, Darko Milicic was beginning his fourth season in the NBA, and by this point, he had already been labeled as a huge draft bust. He had fallen out of the rotation in Detroit. The hype of him being a generational prospect had long wore off. And, well, it didn't help that the multiple future Hall of Famers chosen after him in the draft were blossoming well ahead of schedule. On the court, he wasn't really able to offer the Pistons much at the time. But off the court, Darko had the opportunity to offer a fellow Serbian everything. That same year, Jay Smith, assistant coach of the University of Detroit Mercy, was looking for players to fill his roster. One of the players he had his sights on was a 6'6" forward out of Serbia named Nemanja. Smith offered the kid a scholarship, but moving across the world to play basketball in the US was a massive leap for the young prospect. He could take the scholarship and make the move, or he could stay in Europe and take a shot at a career in professional basketball. Uncertain about what decision he should make, Nemanja got in touch with a friend and fellow Serbian-born player who had already made a similar transition from his home country to play basketball in the States, Darko Milicic. Now, Milicic not only assured Nemanja that he should take the opportunity, he also took him into his home and gave him time to acclimate to American life without being on his own. And over the course of that season, their friendship grew. Nemanja would go to Pistons games, throw parties at Darko's house, and even had access to the resources Darko had gained in his time in the NBA. Darko had created an entry point to American basketball for Nemanja that otherwise wouldn't have existed. Unbeknownst to him, nearly a decade later, his generosity would aid another young Serbian prospect with his journey to the US. After finishing his college career, Nemanja played one season in the Premier Basketball League in the US before moving back home to play professionally in Serbia, where he played his last season in 2012. A relatively unremarkable career to most fans, but one that sparked inspiration in his younger brother, Nikola. Growing up, Nikola Jokic was always interested in basketball, but it was never really his calling. As we all know now, horses and horse racing are where his true passion lies. By the time Nikola had become a teenager, he was competing at the amateur level in horse racing, pursuing the sport as more than just a hobby. In interviews, Nikola has stated that growing up, racing was always a priority over basketball. until he witnessed his brother's journey, his transition to the US, the connections he made, and the level he had reached in the sport. That for the first time, making a career out of basketball materialized into a possibility for a young Nikola Jokic. And so at 14 years old, Nikola made the decision to forego any aspirations of becoming a horse racer and put all of his efforts into basketball. Now 15 years, 3 MVPs, and an NBA championship later, turns out that was probably the right decision. If it wasn't for Darko opening his doors for an old friend from Serbia, Nikola's brother may have opted out of college in the States. He may have stayed home and pursued other interests, as his only real tangible avenue post-high school was at Detroit Mercy. He would have never made the difficult transition to America. His collegiate and pro career in hoops may have never happened. The inspiration he gave to his younger brother would have gone in a completely different direction, and we may have never gotten one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Leading up to the time he was drafted, and even recently, Darko has given words of wisdom, encouragement, and advice to Nikola Jokic, continuing to be a valuable friend to the Jokic family long after he helped Nemanja nearly 2 decades ago. After 10 years in the NBA, Darko Milicic retired a champion with 10 solid seasons to his name. He never shook the label as being the guy that shouldn't have been drafted 2nd overall in one of the greatest draft classes ever. And although he never gave fans quite what they were expecting coming into the league, he gave us something a whole lot better. One of the greatest players to ever touch a basketball.
That's crazy. If I'm Darko, I'm telling that story all day. If it wasn't for me, it wouldn't be no Jokic. You know what I'm saying?
Ellie is lucky here. Now watch what happens, and watch him go at Ainge right there. He goes right back at him. You see Scotty Brooks is happy, and right here, look at him go up.
This is Mario Elie, former guard for the Houston Rockets, and he's on path to winning his first NBA championship. This is Danny Ainge, and he's not happy about it. But this second-round matchup between the Rockets and the Suns in the 1994 playoffs was heated right from the jump. Coming off a finals appearance in the previous season, the Suns were being pushed to the brink by a tough, up-and-coming Rockets team. The Suns took the first 2 games of the series, but in Game 3, Houston completely blitzed them in a 16-point blowout. But in the midst of these games, a smaller battle was taking place between Mario Elie and Danny Ainge. Tensions were building as the play got more and more physical, neither of them willing to budge, leading to this moment towards the end of Game 3, an exclamation point on a blowout win. This was Mario's 3rd bucket of the entire game, and yet that didn't stop him from letting Ainge hear every single detail about it. But with the Rockets up double digits and time winding down, this game was far too out of reach for Ainge and the Suns to change the outcome. So instead, a few plays later, Ainge does something that would change the course of NBA history.
This game is going to wind down to a whimper for Phoenix. Olajuwon putting the cherry on the Sunday. 118 to 102.
Ainge just tried to rifle the ball in, and Ellie is mad. I wonder if he did.
You threw that bitch on purpose.
That was a bit of an overreaction. In a moment of frustration, Danny Ainge decides, if I can't beat him, I'll just hurt him. The man zips a fastball right at Mario, hitting him directly in the face. He then proceeds to play it off like it was an accident. Ainge took the low road and beamed the guy when his guard was down. And this one decision changed the direction of this entire series. If the win in Game 3 didn't give the Rockets enough motivation, seeing their teammate get sniped by a notoriously dirty player was enough to get them going. Little did Ainge know, this decision would have much greater ramifications. Because watching all of this take place was this guy, Robert Horry, aka Big Shot Bob, aka the man with more rings than Michael Jordan. And Horry was appalled by Ainge's actions. So much so that from this day forward, Horry despised Ainge and his dirty tactics. Years later, Horry even went as far as saying he hates Danny Ainge, and he wasn't afraid to let everyone know it. Fortunately for him, the next season, Danny Ainge retired from the NBA, where he could no longer bother Horry or anyone else. Until the Phoenix Suns hired him to be the assistant coach the very next season in 1996. But the changes within the Suns organization that year did not end with the coaching staff. They were also looking to part ways with their superstar, Charles Barkley. So on August 19th, 1996, just 3 months after Ainge's hire, Phoenix traded away Barkley to the Houston Rockets for Sam Cassell, Chucky Brown, Mark Bryant, and Robert Horry.
Yeah.
2 years after that
about that.
fateful inbounds pass, the guy who Horry hated so much
I think
was now
who did
his
the video on
coach.
this?
And as you might expect, this did not last very long. Despite their now
Secret Base did a video on this or something. Secret Base, they had some beef. Secret Base. Hey, let me know y'all want to watch some Secret Base videos. I'll watch them.
professional relationship, Horry was not going to hide his feelings about Ainge. Practices were heated, games were even worse. And just 30 games into his time with the Suns, Horry's disdain for Ainge was put on full display for the world to see.
On Sunday night, he did this to his coach, Danny Ainge.
In a moment infamously known as the towel throw, Robert Horry tosses a sweaty towel in Ainge, his coach's face, completely dismissing him in the process. Look at the disgust on Horry's face. He really did hate that man. And in that moment, there was
why did Rockets
absolutely
blow that
nothing
team
Ainge
up,
could
though?
do about it. What punishment could possibly be
Going
enough
back
for
to
such
back.
an action?
After serving a 2-game suspension for the towel episode, Robert Horry was supposed to be back in the Phoenix uniform tonight. Instead, he's LA bound.
72 hours later, Robert Horry was no longer on the Suns.
LA bound.
An unbelievable coincidence of a transaction,
by
considering
LA.
Ainge said the trade had nothing to do with the towel
Kings will be
incident.
sitting
The
with a
team Horry
championship
was
right
traded
now.
to, a young, rising team in the Los Angeles Lakers, who signed Shaquille O'Neal and drafted Kobe Bryant just 6 months prior. And it was in LA where Horry would grow his legend as one of the biggest clutch shot makers in NBA history. Shots that were the deciding factor in championships, and plays that solidified the legacies of both Shaq
R.I.P.
and
my
Kobe
nigga Kobe.
during their three-peat. If Danny Ainge doesn't rifle a pass at Mario Elie, Robert Horry never grows to hate the man. There's no tension between the two of them. Horry never throws the towel, and he never gets shipped off to the Lakers, completely altering and very possibly preventing a three-peat championship run half a decade later. All of this because Mario Elie got a tough bucket and Ainge had to crash out in the final moments of a playoff game that was already decided. Years later, Robert was asked if he regretted throwing the towel or if he would change anything about that incident. A changed man, Robert said, yeah, of course. If he could do it all over again, he would have thrown a brick. And that is the butterfly effect. When one person's actions spur a series of events that leads to something much, much bigger.
That's crazy. Thank you, Danny Ainge. God. So, hey, who should be mad is Kings fans. Them old Chris Webber Kings fans. You know what I'm saying? Look. That's who y'all see. Look, Big Shot Bob ain't on the Lakers hitting that shot. Y'all probably have a championship right now. I'm just saying, but who knows, right? Anyway, shout out to JxmyHighroller for this video. This was crazy. Now, the first story probably the craziest one because of the, he saved like that, like just him hitting that shot saved more life than, than it should have, because it went from one life to multiple lives, right? Anyway, but yeah, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Check out the last JxmyHighroller video right here. Check out some other videos you might like right here, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.